The sky was painted in strange colors as Ethan's small ship broke through the alien clouds. Flames trailed from its sides as it crashed into the rocky valley, shaking the ground like thunder. When the smoke cleared, the human stepped out, coughing but alive. He looked around and saw mountains taller than anything he had ever seen, their peaks hidden behind stormy mist. The valley was silent, yet it carried an uneasy feeling, as if something powerful slept beneath the earth. Ethan brushed dust from his jacket and muttered to himself, well, that was not part of the plan. His communication device was broken, his supplies half burned, and there was no signal of rescue. He had landed on an unknown world, and survival was his only option. As he wandered deeper into the valley, he noticed symbols carved into massive stones. The carvings were ancient, glowing faintly as if the rock still held a strange energy. Ethan traced his hand across the surface, curious, but quickly pulled back when the stone grew warm. Something about this place whispered danger, yet his human curiosity pushed him forward. Then he heard footsteps, light but quick. From behind the tall grass emerged a figure, not human but not frightening either. It was a girl, tall and graceful, her skin faintly glowing like silver under the fading sun. Her eyes were wide with shock when she saw him, as if she could not believe a human stood before her. "You should not be here," she said in a soft but urgent voice. Ethan blinked, surprised she spoke in a tongue he could understand. "Trust me, I did not plan to crash here," he replied, raising his hands in peace. The girl studied him, her gaze sharp yet curious, before she whispered, "The Titan sleeps beneath this ground, and strangers must not disturb it." Ethan frowned. "Titan?" She pointed to the great mountain ahead, its shadow falling over the valley like a giant hand. "Beneath that mountain rests a being older than my people, older than time itself," she explained. "My tribe calls it the sleeping Titan, and we guard it so that it never wakes." Her words filled the air with a heavy silence. Ethan felt a chill, but also an itch of fascination. A giant beneath the mountain, a legend waiting to be proven. This was exactly the kind of mystery humans could never ignore. "Maybe I should see it for myself," Ethan said with a faint grin, though his voice carried more curiosity than caution. The girl's eyes widened in fear. "No, you do not understand. If the Titan wakes, nothing can stop it, not even the stars." Ethan raised a brow. "Sounds like a myth. Every civilization has one." But she shook her head. "No, human, this is no myth. It breathes in its sleep, it dreams, and when it dreams the earth trembles, almost as if to prove her words." The ground beneath them gave a low rumble. The stones around the valley vibrated, dust falling in tiny streams. Ethan's heart skipped a beat, and he looked toward the mountain, where faint cracks of glowing light spread across its rocky surface. The girl grabbed his arm, pulling him back with surprising strength. "You must leave now, before it feels you." But Ethan did not step back. He stared at the glowing lines with awe. His human nature, that endless drive to know the unknown, kept him frozen. The girl's voice broke through his thoughts. "My name is Leora, and if you stay here, you will bring death to my people." Her words were heavy, yet her eyes held something else, fear mixed with a strange hope. Ethan turned to her. "Maybe it is not death. Maybe it is something your people misunderstood." She shook her head. "You speak like a child of fire, and fire always burns." The rumble grew louder, echoing through the valley like the roar of some hidden beast. From the cracks in the mountain, streams of light spread further, pulsing like veins. Leora's grip on his arm tightened, her silver eyes locked on his. "You do not know what you have awakened," she whispered, her voice shaking. Ethan swallowed hard, suddenly unsure if his curiosity had gone too far. The ground split slightly. A massive gust of wind rushed from beneath the mountain, as if something within had taken a breath. The sky darkened, clouds swirling into a spiral above the peak, bird-like creatures scattered in fear, their cries sharp and desperate. Leora stepped back, her face pale with terror. "It is stirring. The Titan knows you are here." Ethan could feel it too. A weight pressing against his chest, an ancient presence older than humanity itself. And then, in the distance, a single sound shook the valley, a deep echoing thud. It was not thunder, it was a heartbeat. Slow but strong. The Titan was not a myth, it was real, and it had begun to wake asterisk. The heartbeat still echoed through the valley, slow and powerful, as if the mountain itself was alive. Ethan stood frozen, his eyes locked on the glowing cracks spreading across the rocky surface. Leora pulled at his arm, urging him to leave. But his feet refused to move. Every instinct told him this was dangerous. Yet his curiosity refused to let go. Humans had always reached for the unknown, climbed mountains, sailed oceans, touched the stars. Ethan was no different. And here, right before him, was a secret older than history itself. "Come with me, we must hide," Leora whispered, her voice sharp with fear. Ethan finally nodded, letting her guide him away from the trembling ground. She led him through winding paths of stone, into a cave marked with more glowing symbols. The inside was warm, almost alive, with walls carved by ancient hands. Torches of blue fire lit the cavern, though no one had touched them in ages. "This is where my people keep the records," Leora said, her voice softer now. She pressed her hand against one wall, and suddenly the carving shifted. Glowing lines rearranged into moving images, telling stories of the past. Ethan stepped closer, his eyes wide as scenes unfolded. The Titan was shown in battle, towering above cities, its arms like mountains, its steps breaking worlds. It was built by the ancients, not born of nature, Leora explained, her silver eyes glowing. In the firelight, they made it as a weapon, but they lost control. So my ancestors bound it beneath the mountain. Ethan's chest tightened as he watched, because the Titan looked less like a beast and more like a machine. It had armor, glowing eyes, and strange patterns across its body that reminded him of circuits. "That thing is not a god," Ethan muttered under his breath. Leora turned to him sharply. "To you maybe, but to my people, it is sacred, and waking it means death." Ethan shook his head. "No, this looks like technology, ancient. But advanced. Maybe it can be understood, maybe even controlled." Her face hardened. "You speak like the ancients did, and they paid the price." Ethan's mind raced, his human drive stronger than ever. He imagined what secrets the Titan held, what knowledge could be unlocked. But deep inside, a voice whispered knowledge often comes with a price. Still, he could not resist. He had to see more. "Take me closer to the chamber," Ethan said quietly. Leora's eyes widened. "Are you mad?" "You saw it stir. You heard its heart. The Titan is not sleeping deeply anymore." Ethan smiled faintly, though it carried no humor. "Exactly, and that means we can learn from it. Maybe stop it before it wakes fully." Leora shook her head, torn between fear and something else she could not name. She wanted to turn away, but there was something in Ethan's voice. Something stubborn, something brave, something foolishly human, against her own judgment. She whispered, "I will take you, but only because if you go alone, you will surely die." Ethan gave her a small nod. "Fair enough." They left the cavern and walked silently toward the mountain. The ground still trembled lightly, like the world was breathing. The air grew heavy as they neared the massive stone gate half buried in rock. It was covered in ancient symbols, glowing faintly, as if responding to their presence. "This is the outer seal," Leora whispered. "No one has entered since the ancients vanished." Ethan stepped forward, running his fingers across the markings. As his skin touched the stone, the symbols flared brighter, spreading light through. "The gate," Leora gasped. "It responds to you." Ethan stepped back, startled. "I did not do anything." But the gate groaned, stone grinding against stone as lines of energy spread across its surface. Dust rained down as the massive doors began to shift, opening slowly. A deep rush of air escaped, warm and heavy like the breath of something old. Inside was darkness. But not empty darkness, faint red lights pulsed in the shadows. As if waiting eyes watched them, Ethan's heart pounded. Excitement and fear mixing together. Leora clutched his arm, her voice trembling. "We should not be here," Ethan swallowed hard but stepped forward anyway. Inside, giant pillars stretched upward, glowing faintly with lines of energy. The chamber felt endless, like a cathedral built for a god. And at the far end, half buried in rock, lay the Titan. It was enormous, larger than Ethan had ever imagined. Its body was made of black metal and stone fused together, its chest rising and falling slowly. Every breath it took sent a faint tremor through the chamber. Its eyes were closed, but faint light pulsed beneath the lids. Ethan whispered. "It is alive," Leora nodded, her voice breaking. "Alive and dreaming, and if it wakes, there will be no tomorrow." But Ethan could not look away. His hands trembling with awe, he pulled a small scanner from his broken ship's bag. Aiming it at the Titan, the device beeped wildly. Unable to measure what it detected, Ethan grinned nervously. "It is technology, not a beast. This changes everything," Leora's voice cracked. "This will destroy everything." The Titan gave another deep breath, the sound rolling through the chamber like thunder. Ethan stepped closer, unaware his scanner emitted a pulse of energy. The Titan's chest glowed faintly, as if responding. Leora gasped. "You are waking it." Ethan froze, realizing too late his curiosity had crossed a line. The chamber shook violently, dust falling from the ceiling. The Titan's fingers twitched, scraping against the stone. Its eyes flickered, opening slightly to reveal a burning glow. And in that moment, Ethan understood he had truly disturbed the sleeper. Asterisk. The chamber still shook from the Titan's restless stirrings. Dust drifted down like falling ash, and the ground hummed with a deep vibration. Ethan's scanner flickered and died. Overwhelmed by the impossible energy in the air, he shoved it back into his bag, his heart pounding faster with every sound from the giant. Beside him, Leora trembled, her silver eyes fixed on the massive figure. Her hands clenched tightly, her breath sharp, like she was caught between fear and guilt. "You should not have come here," she whispered, her voice heavy with sorrow. Ethan glanced at her, confused by the pain in her tone. "You said your people only guard it. Why are you so afraid?" Leora stepped back, pressing her palm against her chest as if holding back a secret. "My people are not only guardians," she said quietly. "We are bound to the Titan in ways you cannot imagine." Ethan frowned, curiosity burning stronger than his fear. "What do you mean bound?" "You speak like it belongs to you." She shook her head, her silver hair glimmering faintly in the dim light. "No, it does not belong to us. We belong to it." Her words hung in the air, sharp as knives. Ethan's brow furrowed. "That sounds like slavery, not worship." Leora's eyes filled with sadness. "Long ago, when the ancients built the Titan, they needed guardians, protectors who would remain even after they were gone. My ancestors were chosen, altered by the Titan's own power. Their blood changed forever." Ethan stared, shocked, as she raised her hand, letting faint lines of light glow beneath her skin. "They tied us to its life. As long as the Titan exists, so will we. But if it awakens fully, we may not survive its fury." The revelation struck Ethan like a hammer. This was no simple legend. Her people were living proof of the Titan's design. "You mean your tribe is connected to it, like an extension?" he whispered. She nodded. "Yes. Our lives are the chains that keep it bound." Ethan's thoughts raced, both fascinated and horrified. "So if the Titan is destroyed, your people die too?" Leora's lips tightened. "Yes, that is why we fear, and why we forbid outsiders from coming near." Her gaze softened as she looked at him. "And yet here you are, a stranger, shaking the balance we've kept for thousands of years." Ethan took a deep breath, his mind spinning with possibilities. To humans, this was discovery, knowledge, progress. But to her people, this was survival, a fragile balance they lived by. Why are you telling me this? Ethan asked, his voice low. Leora hesitated, her eyes filled with conflict. Because I believe you may be different, she whispered. When you touched the gate, it responded to you, not to me, not to anyone else, only you. Ethan blinked, her words sinking deep. You think I'm connected to it somehow, he muttered. She nodded slowly. Maybe you were meant to come. Maybe this is fate, or maybe it is a curse. Her hands trembled as she spoke. I should hate you for waking it, but a part of me wonders if the Titan was waiting for you. Ethan felt a chill, his human logic fighting against the weight of her words. But deep inside, he knew something strange was happening, something even he could not explain, before he could respond. The Titan shifted again. Its chest glowed with brighter light, and a deep metallic groan echoed through the chamber. The tremor forced them both to stumble, rocks breaking loose from above. Leora pulled Ethan toward the wall, her voice sharp. We must leave now, before it wakes fully. They ran through the winding passage, the thunder of the Titan's restless movements chasing them. As they emerged into the valley, the storm above had grown stronger. The sky swirled with black clouds, and streaks of violet lightning ripped across the horizon. The mountain seemed alive, its surface glowing like veins of fire. Ethan bent over, gasping for breath. Leora stood beside him, her face pale, her body shaking. He looked at her carefully, the glow in her skin still faint but visible. You carry its power in your blood, don't you? Ethan asked, his voice quiet. She lowered her head. Yes, and that is why my people fear me as much as they revere me. Ethan frowned. Fear you? Why? Leora's voice broke. Because I am not only bound to the Titan, I can feel it. I hear its dreams, its whispers, and sometimes it hears me too. Her confession hung in the air, heavier than the storm. Ethan stared at her, realization dawning. You're more than a guardian, you're a link, maybe even a key. Leora's lips trembled, her eyes filled with tears she refused to shed. That is the secret my people keep, and the reason I must never fail. For if the Titan listens to me, and I falter, it could destroy everything. Ethan placed a hand gently on her shoulder, surprising even himself. Then, maybe I can help, he said softly. Her eyes met his, filled with both doubt and fragile hope. You are reckless, human. But perhaps recklessness is what we need, she whispered. The ground rumbled again, louder this time. Bird-like creatures fled the valley in swarms, their cries filling the air. The Titan's heartbeat thundered through the land, steady and growing stronger. And as Ethan looked back at the glowing mountain, he knew the secret Leora carried was only the beginning. The valley groaned as if the planet itself was alive. Mountains shook, the ground cracked, and thunder rolled from within the earth. Ethan and Leora stood at the edge of the glowing mountain, watching in stunned silence. The Titan was stirring. No longer a whisper in dreams, but a giant waking from endless slumber. Leora clutched her chest, her breath ragged. She could feel its heartbeat inside her veins, stronger and louder with every second. Her skin glowed faintly, pulsing in rhythm. With the Titan's energy, this is the beginning, she whispered. Her voice breaking with fear. Ethan's fists clenched, his mind torn between terror and awe. The ground split beneath them as molten light surged upward like rivers of fire. From the cracks came a sound, deep and metallic, like gears grinding. After 1,000 years of silence, the Titan's body was awakening piece by piece. Ethan, we must go, Leora shouted, tugging at his arm, but his eyes remained fixed on the mountain, his human curiosity refusing to yield. He had seen many wonders across space, but nothing like this, nothing alive yet built. This is history waking up, he muttered. This could change everything. The storm above raged, clouds spinning. Into a dark spiral, bolts of violet lightning struck the mountain, as if the sky itself was feeding the Titan. The air grew heavy, charged with a strange energy that made Ethan's skin crawl. Every hair on his body stood on end as the ground shook violently. Then, with a sound like shattering stone, the mountain split open. Rocks fell away, tumbling into the valley below. From within the jagged crack, a colossal shape began to rise. Its body was covered in stone, but beneath it gleamed black metal laced with glowing lines. The Titan was larger than Ethan had imagined. Its head brushed the storm clouds, its arms like towers, its chest glowing with every deep breath. It moved slowly, as if fighting the weight of centuries, but each movement carried a power that shook the land for miles. The tribe arrived, running from the hills, their voices raised in cries of terror. Some fell to their knees, bowing, others screamed and fled. "The Titan is awake," they shouted, their voices carrying across the valley. All eyes turned to Ethan, for he was the outsider who had broken the balance. Leora stepped forward, standing between Ethan and her people. "This was not only his doing," she cried. "The Titan was always destined to wake." But her words fell on deaf ears. The tribe raised their weapons, their faces twisted with fear. They believed the human had brought ruin, and now they demanded his blood. Ethan raised his hands, stepping back slowly. "I didn't mean to, I didn't know," he said. Though even he wasn't sure if that was true. The Titan's massive eyes flickered open, glowing like burning suns. It looked across the valley, its gaze falling on the kneeling tribe, then on Ethan. The moment its eyes met his, Ethan froze. A strange sensation swept through him, as if the giant was looking not just at him, but inside him. The Titan paused, its towering body still, the storm quieting for a single breath, and then, to the shock of all, the Titan lowered its head slightly, as if in acknowledgement. Gasps echoed through the tribe, fear mixing with disbelief. "Why does it bow to the human?" they cried, their voices trembling. Leora's heart pounded, her silver eyes wide with shock. She turned to Ethan, whispering, "It recognizes you." Ethan's voice cracked. "That's impossible, I'm just a man." But deep inside, he felt something stir, something he couldn't explain. The Titan's chest glowed brighter, responding to his presence like a machine recognizing a command. Each pulse of light echoed in his own heartbeat, binding him to it in ways he didn't understand. The tribe grew restless, their fear twisting into anger. "This is blasphemy," one shouted. "The Titan should bow to none but the gods." Another raised a spear, pointing at Ethan. "Kill him before he leads it against us." The crowd roared, torn between worship and destruction. Leora raised her arms, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Stop," she shouted, her voice ringing with the same rhythm as the Titan's pulse. Her people froze, stunned by the power in her tone. "The Titan has chosen, and if it listens to him, then this is fate." Ethan looked at her in disbelief. "You're defending me? After everything?" he asked quietly. She met his gaze, her face pale but resolute. "I fear you, human, but I fear what happens without you even more." The Titan shifted again, standing taller, its shadow swallowing the valley. It raised one arm, and the air rippled with energy. A wave of pressure knocked the tribe back, forcing them to the ground. But Ethan stood, unmoved, the Titan's power flowing around him instead of through him. The storm grew violent once more, lightning striking the earth around them. The Titan let out a sound, not a roar, but something mechanical. A deep echo like a horn. Ethan swallowed hard, realizing this was no accident. The Titan was awake, and it was waiting for him. The storm raged above, lightning splitting the skies as the Titan stood tall in the valley. Its glowing chest throbbed with power, its eyes burned like suns, and its shadow covered the tribe like a blanket of fear. Ethan stood frozen, feeling the weight of its gaze pressing against him. Leora stood beside him, her silver eyes glowing faintly, her body trembling as though her blood pulsed in rhythm with the Titan. The tribe was on their knees, some bowing in worship, others pointing at Ethan with hatred. One elder rose, his voice booming. "The outsider has broken the balance. The Titan bows to him, and this is forbidden." Another shouted, "He has cursed us. He will lead the machine against us. Kill him before it is too late." The air filled with shouts. half begging for mercy from the Titan, half demanding Ethan's death. Ethan raised his hands, his voice uncertain but strong enough to reach them. I didn't mean to wake it. I don't want your destruction, but it listens to me. His words only deepened the chaos. Some gasped in awe while others snarled in rage. Leora stepped forward, her voice sharp as steel. Silence, she commanded. And for a moment the crowd obeyed. Her glow intensified her. Linked to the Titan undeniable. You fear the human because he is different, but perhaps he is chosen, she said, her words carrying through the storm. The elder shook his head, his eyes blazing. He is reckless, blind. He knows nothing of our bond. If the Titan listens to him, then it is not a gift. It is a danger. He pointed at Ethan. If he gives a wrong command, the Titan will crush us all. The tribe shouted again, their fear echoing louder than the thunder. Ethan clenched his fists, frustrated. I never asked for this, he said, his voice breaking through the noise. But if this thing listens to me, then maybe I can help. Maybe I can stop it from destroying everything. His words were desperate, but they carried something the tribe was not used to: human determination. Before more could be said, the ground shook violently. From the horizon came dark ships, sleek and sharp, moving like shadows across the storm. Leora gasped, her face pale. The rival clans, they have come. The sky filled with their vessels, hovering like vultures ready to strike. Energy beams shot down, tearing into the valley. The tribe screamed as fire erupted, the ground exploding. In bursts of light, Ethan shielded his face, pulling Leora close as debris fell around them. The rival clan soldiers marched out, armored and armed with strange weapons. Their leader stepped forward, his armor black, his eyes glowing red behind a mask. The Titan belongs to us now, he declared, his voice cold and heavy. You have failed to guard it, and this human has awakened it for us. His words echoed with victory, sending fear through the tribe. The elder fell to his knees, his voice trembling. We cannot fight them. Their numbers are too many. Leora's eyes narrowed, anger flashing across her face. No, we are not helpless. The Titan stands with us, she said, glancing at Ethan. He felt the weight of her gaze, his chest tightening. The rival soldiers aimed their weapons at the tribe, energy glowing at their tips. Ethan's instinct screamed at him, and without thinking, he shouted, "Stop them!" The Titan moved, its head turning, its massive arm lifting like a mountain rising. With one sweep, it unleashed a shockwave that sent the soldiers flying, their weapons scattering across the ground. The valley shook with its power, the storm roaring louder in response. The rival leader staggered back, his mask cracking, his red eyes burning with rage. You dare control it? He spat, his voice filled with venom. You are no god, human. You are a thief. Ethan's heart pounded, the realization heavy in his mind. He hadn't controlled the Titan with skill or knowledge. He had simply spoken, and it had obeyed. The tribe gasped, their fear deepening. Some bowed lower, worshipping him, while others shouted louder, calling him a danger. Leora stood beside him, her voice firm. Do you not see? The Titan responds to his will, not ours. If he wished to destroy us, we would already be dust. Her words silenced many. Though anger still lingered, the elder's voice cut through the crowd. He is not one of us. He cannot be trusted. He will lead us to ruin. Ethan's voice cracked with anger. Maybe I am not one of you, but I didn't ask for this. I don't want to rule your Titan. But if I can use it to protect you, then I will. His words rang true, his human stubbornness clear. Leora's gaze softened, her voice quieter. That is what makes you different, Ethan. You protect even when they hate you. The Titan shifted again, raising its other arm, its body glowing brighter with energy. The rival ships opened fire, beams of light crashing against its body. But the giant stood firm, absorbing the blasts, its chest glowing brighter until it unleashed a pulse of energy that shattered the nearest vessel. The tribe watched in awe, their fear now tangled with hope. Ethan stood at its feet, feeling its power rush through the ground beneath him. He knew he could not escape this now. The Titan had chosen him, and whether the tribe accepted it or not, he was the only one who could stand between them and destruction. But deep inside, he feared the truth. The more he commanded the Titan, the more it began to awaken something inside him too. The valley burned with light as rival ships rained fire from the skies. The ground split into molten cracks, smoke and ash rising in choking clouds. The tribe scattered in panic, some rushing to hide, others too frozen by fear to move. Ethan stood firm, his eyes locked on the Titan, his heart racing like a war drum. The giant moved with purpose, its massive arms sweeping through the air like storms. Each strike sent shockwaves that shattered the enemy's lines. Soldiers were thrown like leaves in a hurricane, their weapons useless against the ancient machine. Still, the rival leader pressed forward, his voice echoing through a device. "Do not falter, the Titan can be claimed." Leora stood beside Ethan, her silver eyes blazing with determination. She felt the Titan's pulse in her veins, every movement shaking her body with unbearable force. "You must control it, Ethan," she shouted over the chaos. "If you do not, it will destroy everything, even us." Ethan clenched his jaw, his hands trembling. "I don't know how. I'm not a commander, I'm just—" The ground erupted as another blast from the rival ship struck the Titan's side. The giant staggered, its massive body groaning like breaking stone. It let out a deep, mechanical sound that shook the skies. For the first time, Ethan saw something terrifying: hesitation in the Titan's movements. "It is losing control." Leora gasped, her face pale. "The old programming is waking. It was made for war, and it only knows how to destroy." Ethan's chest tightened, the truth crashing down on him. If he did nothing, the Titan would tear the valley apart, friend and foe alike. He shouted desperately. "Stop, hold!" The Titan froze, its glowing eyes dimming slightly. It obeyed, but the power inside it still pulsed violently, like a storm trapped in chains. Ethan staggered back, gasping, "It listens, but not fully. It's fighting me." The rival soldiers regrouped, unleashing a second wave of fire. The beam struck the Titan, leaving burning scars across its metal skin. It roared again, lifting its arm to unleash another deadly pulse. Ethan screamed, "No, not them. Protect the people." The Titan shifted, redirecting its strike. Its energy burst upward, shattering a ship in the sky, flames raining down in fiery arcs. The tribe gasped in awe, some shouting in worship, others crying in terror. To them, Ethan was no longer a stranger. He was either savior or destroyer. Leora pulled him aside, her voice sharp and urgent. "You are not only guiding it, Ethan, you are shaping it. The Titan listens to your heart more than your words." Ethan stared at her, sweat dripping down his face. "You mean if I lose control, if I give in to anger, it will follow that too?" She nodded. "Yes, you must not let rage guide you, or we all fall." The thought chilled him. But there was no time to hesitate. The rival leader himself leaped forward, his armor glowing with stolen ancient energy. He raised a weapon forged from the same technology as the Titan, a blade of searing light. With inhuman strength, he struck at the Titan's leg. The blow carved a deep mark, sparks flying like fire. The Titan stumbled, its roar shaking the skies again. Ethan shouted, "Defend!" and the giant raised its arm, blocking the next strike with a thunderous crash. The rival leader turned his gaze to Ethan. "You do not deserve this power, human. You are weak, unworthy," he spat. Ethan's voice trembled but grew stronger with each word. "Maybe I am weak, but I'm not using it for myself. I'm using it to protect." The Titan mirrored his resolve, its glowing core pulsing brighter. It lifted its massive hand, slamming it down near the enemy, sending shockwaves that split the ground. The rival soldiers scattered once more, their formation broken, but the leader stood firm, glaring at Ethan with hatred burning in his eyes. The battle raged on, fire and lightning painting the valley in chaos. The Titan fought, but each strike pushed it closer to losing itself. Its roars grew deeper, its movements more violent. the line between weapon and protector blurring. Leora clutched Ethan's arm, her voice filled with dread. "It's slipping away, Ethan. It cannot hold much longer." Ethan closed his eyes, breathing hard. He thought of the tribe, of Leora, of the strange destiny that had brought him here. He spoke not just with his voice, but with his heart. "You are not only destruction. You can protect. You can guard. Stand with me." The Titan stilled, its eyes glowing brighter. For a moment, the storm quieted, as though the giant had heard something new, something beyond its programming. The rival leader screamed in fury, charging again with his glowing blade. But this time, the Titan moved with purpose, swatting him aside like an insect, his body crashing into the rocks. The tribe rose from their hiding places, their eyes wide, their voices filled with awe. "The Titan listens to him," they cried. "The human commands it." Ethan stood weakly, his body trembling, but his eyes held determination. He had won this battle, but he knew the war was not over, because with every command, every bond he formed with the Titan, he felt something awaken inside himself too. Something vast, something dangerous, something that might one day consume him. And as the Titan bowed its head slightly again, the valley fell silent, waiting for what would come next. The battlefield was silent after the storm of fire and chaos. Smoke curled from the ruins of shattered ships. Broken weapons lay scattered across the valley. The tribe huddled together, their eyes wide, their voices hushed in awe and fear. Above them all, the Titan stood tall, its chest glowing like a beating sun, its head lowered toward Ethan. Ethan's breath came in short gasps, his body trembling from exhaustion. Each command he had given drained him, not only in strength but in spirit. He could feel the Titan inside him now, its presence echoing through his mind like a second heartbeat. The bond was no longer just power, it was a weight, pressing deeper every time he called upon it. Leora stood close, her silver eyes fixed on him with a mix of fear and hope. "You held it back," she whispered. "You turned its fury into protection. No one has done that before." Ethan shook his head, his voice rough. "I didn't control it, I only begged it to listen, and it chose." Leora's gaze softened. "And that choice means everything." The tribe elders approached cautiously, their faces pale. One spoke, his voice shaking. "The Titan listens to the human, not to us. This is dangerous. This cannot be allowed," another whispered. "Perhaps it is destiny. Perhaps he is the one foretold in the ancient carvings." Their words clashed like swords, the tribe divided between faith and fear. Ethan raised his voice, surprising himself with its steadiness. "I don't want to rule you, I don't want your Titan, but it has awakened, and it won't go back to sleep." He looked at the glowing giant, his eyes filled with grim certainty. "You have two choices now: destroy it, or accept that it stands with me." The tribe gasped at his boldness. Some cried out in anger, others in prayer. The elder snarled, "If it is tied to him, then he is a curse. Destroy them both before the Titan consumes us." But before they could act, the ground shook again. The rival leader, broken and burned, dragged himself from the rocks, his red eyes still burning with hate. "You think you can control it, human?" He spat, his voice cracked with rage. "But the Titan is no guardian, it is war itself, and war always consumes its masters." With his last strength, he raised his broken weapon, aiming not at Ethan but at Leora. "If I cannot claim the Titan, then I will break its link," he snarled. Ethan's heart lurched, his body moved before thought. "Protect her!" he shouted with everything he had. The Titan moved instantly, its massive hand slamming down like a wall, blocking the strike. The rival leader vanished beneath the crushing force, his body lost in the rubble. The valley fell silent again, the only sound the Titan's heavy breathing. Leora stood frozen, staring at Ethan with wide eyes. "You saved me," and it obeyed. "Without hesitation," she whispered, her voice trembling. Ethan looked at her, his chest heaving. "I didn't think, I just couldn't let you die." For a moment, the storm above cleared, light breaking through the clouds. The Titan stood tall, its shadow vast, But its presence felt different now, less wild, more steady. It had listened not just to words, but to the human heart. The tribe saw it too, their fear softening into something new wonder. The elder fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. Perhaps we were wrong. Perhaps the Titan is not only destruction. Perhaps it was waiting for him. Others followed, bowing their heads. Not to the Titan, not to Ethan, but to the bond between them. It was not worship of a god, but acceptance of a protector. Ethan turned to Leora, his voice low. I can't keep this up forever. The Titan is too strong. One day I won't be able to stop it. She touched his arm gently, her glow faint but warm. Then you must make the choice, Ethan. Bind yourself fully to it, or let it return to the void. Her words struck him with the weight of destiny. Bind himself and he would never be free, his life forever tied to the Titans. Let it go, and the Titan might vanish, leaving the tribe defenseless if enemies came again. The decision tore at him. Both paths filled with sacrifice, his eyes closed, his mind heavy with the truth. Only a human would be foolish enough to choose. He opened his eyes, staring up at the giant. I choose to stay, he whispered. If this is the burden, then I'll carry it. Not because I want power, but because you need someone to hold it back. The Titan's eyes blazed, its body glowing brighter than ever before. A wave of energy swept across the valley, warm and steady, as if the giant itself accepted the bond. Ethan staggered but remained standing. The Titan lowered to one knee, bowing to him fully now. Leora's eyes shone with tears, her voice soft. You are not cursed, Ethan. You are chosen. The tribe echoed her words, their voices carrying across the valley like a new dawn. The storm faded, the fires dimmed. The land grew quiet again. The Titan stood as a guardian, no longer a sleeper, no longer a weapon. And Ethan stood at its feet, not a conqueror, not a god, but a human who chose to protect. The valley would never forget the day a man woke a Titan, not by accident, not by force, but by choice.